The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie has become one of the most heartbreaking and mysterious stories unfolding in the United States. An 84-year-old grandmother, known for her resilience, faith, and devotion to family, vanished from her peaceful home in the Catalina foothills near Tucson, Arizona. What began as a quiet Saturday night quickly transformed into a nightmare that has stretched for days without answers. Law enforcement agencies, including the local sheriff's office and the FBI, have launched a massive investigation. Meanwhile, Nancy's family, especially her daughter, well-known television journalist Savannah Guthrie, has pleaded publicly for her safe return. Reports of forced entry, blood evidence, and mysterious ransom messages have deepened the mystery. As search teams comb through rugged desert terrain and investigators analyze digital clues, the central question remains painfully unresolved. Where is Nancy Guthrie, and is she still alive? A peaceful life interrupted. Nancy Guthrie was widely known among friends and neighbors as a joyful, determined woman who carried tremendous strength through life's challenges. After losing her husband years earlier to a sudden heart attack, she raised her children on her own and became the emotional backbone of her family. Her daughter Savannah Guthrie eventually became a prominent journalist on the Today program, but Nancy remained deeply rooted in her quiet Tucson community. Living in the scenic Catalina foothills, she enjoyed a peaceful lifestyle surrounded by wide desert views and supportive neighbors. Despite her age and several health conditions, Nancy maintained a sharp mind and independent spirit. She relied on a walker and needed daily medication to manage heart issues and chronic pain, but she stayed active in church and family gatherings. Those who knew her described her as optimistic and full of faith. That peaceful life, however, was suddenly shattered when she vanished overnight, leaving loved ones and investigators desperate for answers. The final normal evening. The timeline of Nancy's disappearance begins with what seemed like a completely ordinary family evening. On Saturday night, January 31st, Nancy spent time with her family before being driven back to her home in the foothills. According to investigators, relatives dropped her off shortly before 10 at night. She entered the house with her walker, and the garage door closed around 9:50 p.m., marking the last confirmed moment she was seen by loved ones. Everything appeared normal. There were no signs of fear, distress, or unusual activity. After that moment, however, silence took over. Nancy's phone showed no outgoing messages or calls during the night. At first, there was no indication that anything had gone wrong. But as the hours passed and communication never resumed, the quiet routine of the evening slowly transformed into the starting point of a deeply troubling mystery that investigators are still trying to unravel: the midnight window of suspicion. Investigators later identified a critical time frame during the early morning hours when something likely happened inside or around Nancy's home. Data from the monitoring application connected to her pacemaker continued to function normally for a few hours after she returned home. Then, sometime between roughly 1:45 and 2:30 in the morning, the signal suddenly disappeared. That moment instantly became a major clue in the investigation. Authorities believe this narrow overnight window could mark the time when Nancy was taken from her house. Because her pacemaker depended on connection through her phone, the sudden loss of signal suggested either the phone stopped transmitting or Nancy was moved away from its range. This unexplained disruption has remained one of the most troubling details in the entire case. Detectives continue examining digital records, device data, and network signals from that night, in hopes that the pacemaker disconnection might reveal exactly when the crime occurred. Discovery of the crime scene. The following morning, concern began to grow when Nancy failed to appear at her regular church service. Friends who knew her routine were immediately alarmed because she rarely missed Sunday gatherings. Attempts to reach her by phone were unsuccessful. prompting family members to drive to her home around midday. When they entered the house, something felt terribly wrong. Nancy was nowhere to be found. Even more disturbing were signs that suggested a possible struggle. Authorities from the local sheriff's office quickly arrived after the family called emergency services. Within hours, the situation escalated from a welfare check into a full criminal investigation. Officers discovered signs of forced entry and a small amount of blood inside the home. Some reports indicated a trail of blood leading toward the porch and driveway. These discoveries convinced investigators that Nancy had not left voluntarily, but had been taken from her home against her will. Law enforcement mobilizes. Once evidence pointed toward a possible abduction, authorities responded with urgency. The local sheriff's department immediately brought in homicide detectives to assist with the investigation, a move that indicated how seriously they viewed the situation. Soon afterward, federal authorities also became involved. Agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation joined the investigation to provide specialized resources, including forensic analysis and cyber expertise. The case quickly gained national attention, partly because of Nancy's connection to her daughter Savannah Guthrie. Search operations began almost immediately across the surrounding desert landscape. Investigators canvassed neighbors, collected surveillance footage from nearby homes, and analysed traffic camera recordings. Every possible clue was examined. Law enforcement officials repeatedly told the public that they believed Nancy had been abducted and that time was critical because of her medical condition. The investigation rapidly expanded into a coordinated effort involving multiple agencies working around the clock. The urgent medical concern. One of the most distressing aspects of Nancy's disappearance is the danger posed by her health conditions. Nancy depended on several medications to control heart issues and manage chronic pain. Doctors familiar with similar medical situations warned that missing these medications for even a short period could cause severe complications. Within days, symptoms such as weakness, dehydration, and potential cardiac problems could appear. For someone with a pacemaker and an already fragile heart, the absence of treatment could become life-threatening very quickly. These medical realities placed immense pressure on investigators to locate her as fast as possible. Family members emphasized repeatedly that Nancy could not survive long without her medications. This ticking medical clock added urgency to every search effort, every press conference, and every plea for public assistance. The possibility that she might be suffering without proper care made the entire situation even more heartbreaking. Investigators follow every clue behind the scenes. Investigators are using advanced tools and techniques to analyze every detail connected to the case. Specialists from the Federal Bureau of Investigation are examining digital evidence, including phone records, surveillance footage, and internet activity linked to the ransom messages. Analysts are also studying the language used in the communications to determine whether they came from a single person or multiple individuals. Blockchain experts are attempting to trace the cryptocurrency wallet addresses mentioned in the demands, although such transactions are often difficult to track. Detectives are re-interviewing neighbors, delivery drivers, contractors, and anyone who might have been near Nancy's home before the disappearance. By piecing together digital footprints and witness accounts, investigators hope to uncover the identity of the person responsible. A community holding on to hope. As the days continue to pass, the emotional impact of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance has spread far beyond her family. The Tucson community has organized prayer gatherings, candlelight vigils, and public awareness campaigns in hopes of keeping attention on the case. Supporters across the country have shared Nancy's story online, urging anyone with information to contact authorities. Despite the fear and uncertainty surrounding the situation, many people remain hopeful that Nancy will be found alive. Investigators continue following leads while her family waits anxiously for any sign of progress. The search has become more than an investigation. It is a collective effort driven by compassion, determination, and the shared belief that Nancy Guthrie deserves to come home safely.